Hey there guys, I'm SonicGhost and welcome back to some more Let's Play Kirby Nightmare in Dreamland. Last time, we completed the first world in the game, Vegetable Valley, and in this episode we're going to go ahead and start exploring our second world, which is Ice Cream Island. Now, Ice Cream Island is more of a beach-themed area, so we're going to be seeing more beach aesthetics here, like coconuts. Over that, we also get a new power, Parasol. Parasol here actually is a very useful ability for this area because it will protect us from coconuts, and also will float to the ground a little bit as we are descending, just like so. Pretty useful. It's one of those situational type of powers where you really will just not want to use that and want to use something else, like for example sword. So it's a cool little power when we're dealing with the coconuts, but other than that I don't really use it much. But right over here we have another new ability, Tornado. Tornado is one of the more useful moves in Nightmare in Dreamland actually, because with Tornado you can engulf yourself into an invincibility state of a tornado and just fly around the screen at high speeds. And the more you press the button, the higher you go up on screen too. So it's a very useful power, and on certain bosses it can do a lot of damage. But right up here we have another bonus game, Kirby's Air Grind. Think of it as a prequel to Kirby Air Ride on the GameCube. Essentially what you're doing here is you're racing all the other Kirbys to the goal. Hold down the A button and you can go ahead and accelerate. And you want to let go when you get above these spikes. And if you press the A button the second you pass those spikes again, then that'll give you a little boost of speed actually. And as you see, each time I'm doing it I get a little grade. The better the grade, the faster you'll go. So you get good, that makes you go kind of fast, but if you get something like great, that'll make you go even faster. So you want to aim for that high goal of a rank. But with that, we got first place, so I got myself 3 lives. Very useful. Let's go ahead and enter our second level here. And this is the case of me pressing the B button more, allowing me to get more height. Very useful. The one thing that sucks about Tornado though is those little blocks you need to hit in order to open up a new passageway. You can't destroy those with Tornado. In fact, Tornado is really only useful for attacking enemies. You can't use it to attack any of the area around you. So if you need to open up a switch or something by hitting it, well, Tornado's not going to do you justice. Here we go, we have a mini boss, and once we kill him, we get his ability, Wheel. Wheel essentially is just a nice little fast travel while being an attack at the same time. Press the B button, you turn to a wheel, and you start moving forward at fast speeds. Very useful, but just like Parasol, I feel like this is a very situational type of move. More situational than Parasol. But there you go. That's level 2. And would you look at that, I got the number 1, so I get to go ahead and show that number 1 gives you the extra life. Nice little thing about this is Kirby does a nice little dance in each one of these goalposts, but he does a different one in number 1 before a UFO coming above to give him his extra life. Let's go ahead and try again this bomb rally, since in the first episode I failed at this really, really bad. I mean, I didn't even get to hit this thing once. That's what you're supposed to do. You just tap the A button when it comes to you, and then you can go ahead and rally the bomb to a different Kirby. That's what you're supposed to do, instead of what I did, which was apparently holding the button for a little bit too long, which I didn't think I did. I'm gonna blame the controller on that one. Well, if you hold the button for too long, well, that'll kill you. The second you get knocked out, you do get turned to one of those little balls. So you will see that if you're playing a multiplayer game, if a friend knocks you out, you'll turn to that ball. But since I got 3rd place, I got myself a 1-up. If I did better, I would have got myself more lives, but really at this point, I'm not going to care because, well, for 1, I don't really have that many plans on dying in this game, and 2, this game isn't too difficult until you're going for the 100% stuff, and even then, this doesn't get really that difficult until, I like to say maybe World 4 or 5, depending on the player. It really does depend on the player. If this is your first time playing, probably World 4 if you're going for 100%, but you're probably not going to feel difficulty until you hit World 5, in all honesty. Even if it was your first time. I guess it depends on your player to say that, but you'll see what I mean when we get there. But this is the power of UFO. Like I mentioned in the first episode when we saw this power, if you fully charge up a shot and shoot it off, it'll go through not only different enemies, but the walls as well. So that's really, really useful. And as you can see, I can take out enemies before I'm even near them. So that's why so many people love UFO, myself included. Although, the one thing that's really bad about UFO is that you can't take it outside of levels, which makes it my second favorite power in the game. My favorite obviously being Sword, because I love Sword Kirby. If you haven't noticed by now, Sword Kirby looks very similar to Link in the Legend of Zelda series. That's intentional since Nintendo makes Kirby and they also make Zelda, so reference to their own game right there. But with this, we have ourselves a little enemy rush, so to say. Whenever we encounter Meta Knight, which in this game, since this is the first Kirby game, this is when Meta Knight was first getting established, so in this game, Kirby doesn't even know if he's a good, bad guy, anything, so he's just needing to fight Meta Knight and all of his goons whenever he can. So whenever we run into Meta Knight in these levels, we'll have little instances like this where we have to fight all these different enemies, and with UFOs, make short work of them. Although, if you do not have UFO, you can just go ahead and swallow one of these guys up, and with that, well, just swallow them whole and they're dead. So these guys are really no issue no matter what. The only time these guys get really difficult is if you either have the wrong power or you come into those fights with little to no health. That's really the only time I see that Meta Knight section really to be that difficult for people, myself included. The only time I really struggle there is if I have little to no health coming into it. But I'm usually coming in there with pretty much full health, so most of the time I don't have to deal with that issue. Right over here we unlock the museum, so let's see what powers we have. We have fire and a new ability, laser. Laser is actually a pretty unique ability in this game where you can fire a shot straight, but whenever you find a slope and you fire a laser at it, the laser will curve to that slope. So if the slope is going to be, for example, curving a little upwards, your laser will hit it, and then the laser will be redirected up. So that's really useful, and there's a couple puzzles in the game, whether it be for getting extra lives or needed for 100%, that utilize that ability of laser, and it's pretty cool in my opinion. I do like laser, how unique it is. We don't really see laser too much in the series. In fact, this is one of the only games in the series I can think of that even has the ability, so not many games really utilize this ability of laser, which is kind of a shame. We also have a new ability in here, which is Stone. Stone, it's one of my least favorite powers in the whole entire Kirby series. Essentially, all you do is press the attack button, and you drop down on something with immense force. As a stone, as the name implies. Very simple, but I don't really like Stone all that much in my honest opinion, just mainly because you find yourself getting hurt a lot of the times with Stone, and I just don't really like that. If Stone wasn't as risky to use, then I would enjoy using the power more, but because most of the time you're putting yourself in harm's way, that doesn't really make it all that good to me, in all honesty. But after we beat that little mini-boss, we got another new power, which was Mike. Just like Crash, it is a screen nuke, so whatever's on the screen will get killed. Unlike Crash, though, it's not as powerful. So you need to use all three of the mics that you have in order to kill any of the mini-bosses. Which can get kind of annoying for some, but I don't really use those abilities on the mini-bosses much in all honesty, so I don't really mind. I honestly don't. But unlike Crash, you do have 3 usages of mic, so whenever you're going into hordes of enemies, you can use it 3 times in a row, which is pretty useful for clearing out the screen. Personally, I'd never used the screen nuke abilities for that purpose, but if you wanted to, there you go. But over here we have the arena. In each arena, you get to go ahead and battle one of the mini-bosses you'll find in the levels. Once you kill it, well, it'll go ahead and give you not only its power, because you can go ahead and suck it up, but it also gives you a Metamato. Metamatos are pretty much full health in the game, so whenever you're needing full health, just grab a Metamato. And if you need to go ahead and get one quick, just head to one of the arenas, beat the mini-boss in there, and you got yourself a free Metamato. Simple as that. Oh, there's a little thing of health over here. I'm gonna go ahead and grab that drink. There we go. There's one thing I still need to mention about this version of Kirby's Adventure, the remake. Whenever Kirby sucked up an enemy in Kirby's Adventure, he never really had any extra animations or anything. It was just Kirby. It was just him. You didn't have any fancy costumes, but in Nightmare in Dreamland, they added costumes to him, so just like all the other Kirby games, starting with, I believe it was Kirby Superstar that started it, you can actually see Kirby in a costume, which is, you know, a nice touch to copy abilities. But I grabbed myself 2 wheels. There's actually a nice little thing about any of the Kirby games with the abilities. If you go ahead and grab 2 or more enemies, you can go ahead and suck them up. Once you do so, that'll enter you into a roulette of powers. And a lot of people think that the powers in Nightmare in Dreamland are random. That whatever you get from the slots of the powers, it's all randomized, and that's not really true. Certain powers will give you certain abilities if you just let the roulette play itself out. So, for example, you grab yourself 2 wheels and you get yourself a high jump, which, as you saw earlier, when you press the attack button, you get to go ahead and jump up in the air. It gives you a little bit of invincibility frames, so you can go through certain enemies that cannot be killed otherwise, and that would hurt you. You can go ahead and use high jump to pass right through them, which is very useful. Other enemies will give you other abilities that you need, so keep that in mind and just experiment with it, because different enemies will give you different results. You can stop the roulette anytime you want by just pressing any button on your controller and that'll stop it, but if you let it play out, well, go ahead and see what you get. Me personally, I don't actually know what all the combinations do. I don't know what gets you what. I only know a handful, like the 2 wheels get you high jump, and some of the other ones coming up as well, which I'll go ahead and mention some of those when we get to those roulettes. But here we have the Warp Stars. The Warp Stars will actually take you back to a previous world you visited. So if there's something you need back in previous worlds, you can go ahead, jump on one of these Warp Stars, and that'll take you out. So we just went back to level 1. And now we can go ahead and jump on a Warp Star to go back to level 2. This is really useful, so instead of just traveling through each door and going through world by world, you can go ahead and just jump on a Warp Star and go back to grab a Metamato from one of the arenas from an easier world, or just grab a ability you might need. But with that, we have the boss of Ice Cream Island, Paint Roller. Paint Roller here, he will paint up something, and it'll give you a random ability. Sometimes these won't be abilities, sometimes will just be enemies, so keep that in mind before you suck it up. He can give you whatever he feels like, it's all randomized. Paint Roller is actually one of the easier bosses if you come in here with an ability that can do a lot of damage. Like, for example, Spark is a really good ability, Fire is pretty useful as well. I actually want to grab that ball, because that ball is off screen. That was going to be another new ability, but I guess I'll have to show that off later. But with that, Paint Roller is down. And that's our second world completed. So with that, let's get another victory dance here, Kirby. On to level 3, Butter Building. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and end the episode here, guys. So, next time on Let's Play Kirby Nightmare in Dreamland, we'll continue with World 3, Butter Building. I'll see you guys next time.